Most people think they know Jordan before they ever arrive. They think of one image: a narrow canyon, red stone walls, and at the end, a carved facade glowing like a secret. Petra, the ancient rose-red city. A wonder of the world. A monument so iconic that it seems to explain the entire country by itself. But Jordan is not only Petra. It is not only ruins, temples, and tombs carved into cliffs. Jordan is something deeper, older, harsher, and far more human than the postcard ever reveals. Beyond the ancient stones lies a land of deserts that feel like other planets, seas where bodies refuse to sink, cities layered with empire and survival, and a nation that has learned how to endure in one of the most demanding landscapes on Earth. This is a country where water is more precious than silence, where prophets, traders, soldiers, monks, emperors, and refugees have all passed through the same valleys, where civilizations rose not because the land was easy, but because it stood at the meeting point of continents, belief systems, and trade routes. Jordan is where the Middle East narrows into a corridor of memory, a place between Arabia and the Mediterranean, between desert and river, between the ancient world and the fractures of the modern one. From above, Jordan can look almost austere. Plateaus of ochre and brown, escarpments, dry valleys, stone, great open reaches where the eye searches for movement and finds almost none. At first glance it can seem empty, but the emptiness is deceptive. Jordan is one of those countries that rewards patience. It does not overwhelm you instantly with abundance. It reveals itself through contrast, rock and faith, ruin and resilience, hospitality and hardship, sacred geography and ruthless climate. The longer you remain here, the more clearly the country begins to speak. Geography has always defined Jordan's fate. It sits in the heart of the Levant, bordered by Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the Palestinian territories, with a narrow opening to the Red Sea at Aqaba. This position gave Jordan importance long before the modern state existed. Armies crossed here. Caravans moved incense, copper, silk, and spices through here. Pilgrims came through here. The land bridge between Asia, Africa, and the Mediterranean world ran straight through these mountains, wadis, and deserts. Jordan was never just a destination. For much of history, it was a passage. And passages collect stories. Yet this passage is also one of the most water-stressed countries on Earth. It is a place where settlement, agriculture, and survival have always depended on squeezing life out of limited resources. Rain falls unevenly. Rivers are few. Summers are hard. In the east and south, the landscape opens into desert and semi-desert, where heat and dryness impose their own terms on life. To understand Jordan, you must understand that beauty here is never separate from scarcity. Scarcity shaped the cities. It shaped the architecture. It shaped the routes. It shaped the patience of the people. In Jordan, endurance is not an abstract virtue. It is a daily inheritance. Amman, the capital, is where many journeys begin, and it is perhaps the best place to realize how wrong the outsider's first assumptions can be. This is not a city that tries to present a single face. It spreads over hills in pale stone, restlessly expanding, ancient and modern at once, deeply local yet marked by every wave of history that has reached it. In one neighborhood, traffic surges through cafes, ministries, and apartment blocks. In another, old stairways descend into quieter streets where bread bakes before dawn and conversations stretch late into the night. White and cream buildings climb the slopes in layers, making the city look almost as if it has grown out of the rock itself. Amman is one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in the world. Long before it became the capital of a modern kingdom, it was Rabbath Ammon, then Philadelphia under the Greeks and Romans, then a city of the Islamic era, then an Ottoman town, then the nucleus of a state still being shaped by the 20th and 21st centuries. At the citadel, high above the city, fragments of those ages still hold their ground. Roman columns, Byzantine traces, Umayyad ruins, wind moving across stone that has watched centuries come and go. Below, the Roman theater still curves into the hillside, a reminder that Amman has never been only one thing at any point in its life. It has always been a palimpsest, written over, but never fully erased. To walk through Amman is to feel Jordan's deeper rhythm. It is a place of transition. A city where East and West, old and new, wealth and struggle, memory and improvisation all coexist. Bookshops and falafel stands. Rooftop bars and neighborhood bakeries. Art galleries and vegetable markets. Minarets and traffic. The city is not polished into symmetry. It is lived in, and that is what gives it force. Amman is not the cinematic spectacle that Petra is, but it may be the better introduction to Jordan's true character, adaptive, layered, hospitable, serious, and tougher than it first appears. North of the capital, another Jordan waits. One of green pockets, olive groves, and some of the most intact classical ruins in the region. Jerash rises from the landscape with a kind of confidence that still surprises first-time visitors. Colonnaded streets, temples, plazas, arches, theaters, stone avenues extending into the distance with almost theatrical precision. It is one of the great Roman provincial cities, and to stand here is to understand how deeply Jordan once belonged to the world of empire. Chariots once rolled here. Merchants argued here. Governors ruled here. Crowds gathered here beneath the same sun that now falls on tourists and drifting dust. But even in Jerash, Jordan refuses to be just an open-air museum. Villages and modern neighborhoods gather close to the ancient city. Voices from today mix with the silence of the ruins. This is one of the patterns that repeats across the country. Antiquity is not sealed off from contemporary life. It remains near the surface but never fully dominates. Jordan's past is visible everywhere, yet the nation does not live only in reverence to it. It lives through it. Then there is the Jordan Valley, a landscape whose name alone carries extraordinary weight. Here the earth falls away dramatically toward one of the lowest regions on the surface of the planet. The River Jordan, modest in size compared to the great rivers of the world, occupies a spiritual scale far larger than its physical one. For Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, this land resonates with centuries of sacred narrative. Prophets passed through here. Empires fought nearby. Pilgrims still come searching for contact with stories so deeply embedded in the human imagination that the geography itself feels charged. At Bethany beyond the Jordan, tradition locates the baptism of Jesus on the eastern bank of the river. Whether one approaches the place as a believer, historian, or traveler, the emotional weight is undeniable. The river here is not grand. It does not roar. It moves quietly, almost modestly, between reeds and earth. But perhaps that is part of its power. Some of the most consequential places in history are not the largest or the loudest. They are the ones where memory has concentrated so intensely that even the air seems changed. And then the land drops further still, toward one of Jordan's most famous and strangest bodies of water, the Dead Sea. More than a destination, it is an experience of physical disbelief. The shoreline lies at one of the lowest exposed elevations on Earth. The water is dense with salt and minerals, so heavy that the human body rises against it almost unnaturally. To enter the Dead Sea is to feel the rules of ordinary swimming quietly suspended. You do not sink in the usual way. You recline. You hover. You become aware not only of your own body but of the astonishing chemistry of place. Yet even here, beneath the tourism, there is unease. The sea has been retreating. Shorelines shift. Sinkholes open unexpectedly. The environmental stress visible here is not merely local. It reflects broader tensions over water, climate, and extraction in one of the driest regions on the planet. Jordan's beauty often arrives with a shadow. The Dead Sea is magnificent, surreal, almost lunar in its stillness, but it is also fragile. Like much of Jordan, it invites awe and concern at the same time. To the south, the country changes again. Roads begin to stretch longer. The rock reddens. The sky widens. Settlements thin. And slowly, the land opens into one of the most otherworldly deserts on Earth. Wadi Rum, a place of sandstone mountains, monumental cliffs, deep orange dunes, and silence so profound it seems to erase all the noise you carried in with you. If Petra is Jordan's carved miracle, Wadi Rum is its cosmic one. This is a desert that does not feel dead. It feels awake in a slower language. There are landscapes that seem made for human drama, and then there are landscapes so immense that human drama feels suddenly small. Wadi Rum belongs to the second kind. Bedouin camps rest beneath cliffs that make them look like temporary thoughts. Rock bridges span empty air. Narrow canyons cut through stone as if a giant hand once split the earth open. At sunrise, the desert glows gold. By afternoon, it burns red. At night, under an unpolluted sky, it becomes an ocean of darkness punctured by stars so sharp they seem close enough to touch. This is not an empty desert, though outsiders often describe it that way. Bedouin communities know it as terrain of movement, memory, grazing, navigation, and belonging. Trails invisible to a visitor still carry meaning here. Rock inscriptions preserve voices from distant ages. Camels, camps, tea fires, oral tradition, and practical desert knowledge connect the present to a much older rhythm of life. Wadi Rum has been used as a cinematic stand-in for alien planets, and that is understandable. But the irony is that in calling it alien, we sometimes overlook how deeply human it is. If Petra is the face the world knows, Wadi Musa and the broader Petra region are where Jordan begins to reveal what lies behind that face. Petra does not appear all at once. You approach through the Sik, a narrow canyon whose walls rise and close around you like a stone corridor built for suspense. The light changes with every turn. Colors shift from pink to amber to rust to crimson. And then suddenly the canyon opens, and there it is. Al-Khazna, the treasury, the facade that has launched 1,000 photographs and still somehow survives the burden of expectation. But Petra is far larger than that single view. It is not one monument. It is a city. Tombs, stairways, temples, water channels, caves, high places, monasteries, and the remains of a civilization that learned how to make an empire of trade in a hard landscape. The Nabateans, who built Petra, understood something essential about this land. Whoever mastered water here could master survival. Whoever mastered routes could master wealth. Petra was never just dramatic stonework. It was strategy embodied in architecture. A desert capital sustained by engineering, commerce, and adaptation. The deeper you go into Petra, the less it resembles a postcard and the more it begins to feel like an organism. Paths branch and climb. Donkeys pass. Wind slips through openings cut centuries ago. Steps lead toward the monastery, massive and remote, where the effort of the climb seems to be part of the encounter itself. Elsewhere, royal tombs stare across empty space with a dignity that survives erosion. The city feels both abandoned and inhabited, ancient and active, dead and somehow still listening. It is one of the few places on Earth where you can still feel how architecture was once used to negotiate directly with the vastness of geology. Yet the title of this journey is not Petra alone. It is beyond the ancient stones. Because Jordan's true force lies in how the monuments interact with everything around them. The roads, the villages, the desert plateaus, the tea shared with strangers, the call to prayer at dusk, the military history, the pilgrimage routes, the refugee stories, the sheer persistence of ordinary life under pressure. Jordan is not a country that can be understood by ruins alone. One of the reasons is that Jordan is not only a nation of antiquity, it is a nation of modern resilience. Over the past decades, its population has grown rapidly, placing strain on housing, jobs, and infrastructure. It has carried regional pressures that would destabilize many states. Refugee movements from neighboring conflicts have changed communities and public services. Water scarcity remains severe. Energy dependence and economic vulnerability are constant concerns. And yet the country has endured with a steadiness that often goes underappreciated from the outside. That steadiness is not accidental. It is rooted in statecraft, in geography, in alliances, in social cohesion, and in a culture that prizes hospitality not as performance, but as obligation. Across Jordan, the guest is taken seriously. Tea appears quickly. Coffee carries ritual meaning. Meals expand. Conversation matters. Hospitality here is not merely generosity. It is identity. In a harsh environment, openness to the traveler became one of the enduring moral habits of the land. To sit in a Jordanian home or camp and be offered tea sweetened beyond expectation is to glimpse how survival and dignity have long been intertwined here. In the desert, hospitality can be the line between hardship and protection. In the city, it becomes social glue. In both cases, it is a way of saying that hardship does not excuse smallness of spirit. Jordan may be a country of limited resources, but it is not a country of limited welcome. Food tells the same story. Mansaf, the national dish, is more than a meal. It is ceremony, history, and belonging served on a communal platter. Rice, lamb, and fermented yogurt sauce come together in a form that carries both celebration and memory. Elsewhere there is hummus, falafel, grilled meats, warm cubs bread, olives, labna, pickles, and sweets soaked in syrup and patience. To eat in Jordan is to experience the Levant not as a borderless abstraction, but as a lived cultural continuum shaped by land, trade, migration, and care. And then there is Aqaba, Jordan's small but vital opening to the sea. After the heights, valleys, and deserts of the interior, the Red Sea feels almost improbable. Blue water meeting arid mountains. Coral reefs just offshore. Cargo, tourism, diving, and ancient route logic condensed into one narrow coastal outlet. Aqaba matters because it reminds you Jordan has always been more connected than its image suggests. This kingdom is not sealed in desert. It has looked outward for millennia. Trade once moved through Aqaba and inland through routes now partly forgotten by casual travelers. Frankincense, spices, metals, textiles, and ideas all flowed through greater systems that touched Jordan's landscapes. The old caravan roads may be quieter now, but the country still lives from connection. To its neighbors, to faith, to tourism, to diplomacy, to memory. Jordan's significance has always come not from vast size or abundant resources, but from location and continuity. It knows how to matter from the middle. There is also another Jordan, less visible to tourists but crucial to the country's identity, the Jordan of villages, farming terraces, orchards, and seasonal rhythms in the highlands and northwestern regions. Here the land softens compared to the great deserts. Olive trees shape the slopes. Winter can bring cold, even snow in some areas. The idea of the Middle East as only heat and sand starts to fall apart. Jordan contains more variation than outsiders often imagine, and with that variation comes a more complex human geography than the one-dimensional desert kingdom of cliché. This complexity appears in religion as well. Jordan is a predominantly Muslim country, but one deeply marked by Christian history, biblical geography, and a long tradition of coexistence. Mosques and churches stand not as contradictions, but as layered evidence of how belief has passed through this land over centuries. In Madaba, famous for its mosaics, especially the ancient map of the Holy Land, sacred art connects archaeology to devotion in tangible form. Mount Nebo, associated with the final view of Moses over the Promised Land, adds another layer to Jordan's spiritual map. Few countries carry so many overlapping sacred associations within such a relatively compact space. And that sacredness is never far from politics. Jordan sits in one of the most contested neighborhoods on earth. Borders here are not just lines. They are nerves. The kingdom has had to navigate wars around it, shifting alliances, economic pressures, and the consequences of instability beyond its control. Yet despite all this, Jordan has managed to cultivate an image of relative steadiness. This should not be romanticized into perfection. Challenges are real, but the durability of the state and of social life within it remains striking. Perhaps that is because Jordan, more than some nations, has learned the art of balance. Balance between modernity and tradition, between openness and caution, between being part of the region and trying not to be swallowed by its storms, between development and scarcity, between memory and the practical demands of the present. Balance does not mean ease. It means constant adjustment. Jordan's history is full of such adjustments. Even its architecture reflects this logic. In urban areas, pale stone dominates, not only because of visual tradition but because the land itself suggests it. Buildings often seem to rise from the same tones as the hills around them. In rural areas, forms respond to exposure, heat, wind, and terrain. In the desert, camps and structures must negotiate with extremes. In the great ancient sites, architecture becomes almost inseparable from geology itself. Everywhere in Jordan, building has always meant bargaining with the environment. And the environment here is not sentimental. Summer heat can be punishing. Water remains a national anxiety. Desertification and climate change intensify old pressures. The country's future is tied not only to politics and economics, but to the management of finite resources under expanding demand. In this sense, Jordan's story is also a story about the future of the wider Middle East. How does a country remain livable when the margin for ecological error shrinks? How does it preserve social stability when scarcity is the background condition? Maybe this is why Jordan feels so emotionally powerful when experienced properly. Because beneath the beauty and antiquity is a more difficult truth. This is a country that survives not because circumstances are easy, but because adaptation has become a cultural habit. The Nabateans adapted. Desert tribes adapted. Cities adapted. The modern kingdom adapts. Different eras, different methods, same underlying challenge. How to live with little, how to stay coherent under pressure, how to make meaning in a land that demands seriousness. Stand in Wadi Rum at dusk, when the sandstone darkens and the last heat begins to leave the air, and Jordan can seem almost eternal. Stand in Petra before the crowds fully arrive, when the stone glows quietly and the canyon still feels intimate, and time itself seems to slow. Float in the Dead Sea beneath a hard white sky and you feel the planet becoming strange again. Look out from Amman's citadel over the pale hills of the city and you see both antiquity and modern strain in one frame. These places are different, but together they say something similar. Jordan is not a country of easy abundance. It is a country of concentrated meaning, and that may be why visitors so often leave surprised. Not because they found Petra beautiful. They expected that. Not because Wadi Rum felt cinematic. They expected that too. But because the nation as a whole feels more coherent, more dignified, and more affecting than they had imagined. Jordan lingers not because it shouts, but because it accumulates. Scene by scene, hill by hill, cup of tea by cup of tea, stone by stone. Beyond the ancient stones lies a living country. One with pressure lines and pride. One with sacred rivers and receding seas. One with Roman streets and modern unemployment. One with monasteries, mosques, Bedouin camps, refugee neighborhoods, ministries, markets, forts, and deserts. One with fragility, yes, but also with endurance. Jordan does not fit neatly into a single narrative. It is biblical and modern, touristic and serious, dry and emotionally rich, ancient and urgently contemporary all at once. In the end, perhaps Jordan's greatest power is that it teaches you to read stone differently. Not as dead matter, but as witness. The cliffs of Petra, the columns of Jerash, the salt crusts of the Dead Sea, the citadel heights of Amman, the mountains of Wadi Rum, the old castles in the desert, the church mosaics of Medaba, the forts, wadis, passes, and plateaus. In Jordan, stone remembers empires, prayers, caravans, sieges, droughts, and welcomes. It remembers how hard survival has always been here, and how often people chose to build anyway. So no, Jordan is not only Petra. It is not only an archaeological treasure chest. It is a kingdom of thresholds. Between continents, between scarcity and grace, between the ancient world and the unfinished present. A place where history does not sit behind velvet ropes, but breathes through living streets and difficult landscapes. A place where the most important story is not only what was built long ago, but what continues to endure now. And when the sun begins to fall behind the high desert ridges, when the red stones darken and the call to prayer moves across a city of pale hills, when tea is poured and the wind softens over sand that once carried caravans, Jordan reveals its true self. Not just a wonder of the past, but a lesson in endurance.